Would you mind listening to me for a little while? Only a moment. I just want to tell you that I have made a film for you. Perhaps just for you. I wrote a screenplay about 4 women who met for a few days in dramatic circumstances. I asked 4 magnificent, wonderful actresses who are my friends to play the 4 parts. Harriet Andersson, Ingrid Thulin, Kari Sylvan, and Liv Ullmann. I asked my friend Sven Nykvist to do the camera work as usual. I asked the rest of my colleagues to come once more to my aid. We found an old manor house in a silent park. For 40 days we were making a film which we liked. It is called Whispers and Cries. If you ask me whether it is a good or a bad film, I don't know. All I know is that it is a film dear to my heart. That is why I asked you to see it. I want you to like it.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to Movie Homples.
Oh my god, what is that voice?
I'm a little boy. I'm a little kid.
Okay, well, if you're a little kid today, I'm a frog.
You're a frog. You may have a flu, some kind of bug going around.
Something.
I'll probably get it in 5 days.
Yeah, that's usually how that works.
You're a woman in crisis because you're not feeling very well.
I am a woman in crisis.
So it's appropriate that here in our first full week of February's theme of women in crisis, I guess it is appropriate. You're the crisis of sickness. I mean, maybe crisis is a strong term.
It's a little strong.
But is it a strong term in the lives of the women that we discuss here?
No.
Last Monday, we talked about 3 women.
Yeah.
This movie, 4 women. What if every movie was just like one more woman more than the last one, right?
That could be a challenge. An
That
interesting challenge.
They didn't make a 12 Angry Women. It's too bad.
They sure did not.
Wow. How about woke Hollywood step up, remake 12 Angry Men into 12 Angry Women, and then Texas will probably secede when you do that.
It's kind of a tall order to now find 5 women in a movie where those women are in crisis. You know, The Descent.
The one where they go in the big hole?
They're in crisis.
What kind of, wait a minute, they go in a big hole? The womb?
Well,
signifying a womb?
I have a lot of thoughts about that regarding this movie.
I'm trying to remember The Descent. I may need to rewatch that one.
It's like they go into a cave, but
Which
they
is
haven't
like a
told
womb.
anyone that they're there. There's some sci-fi element as well, potentially, to that movie.
There might be a little of, I wouldn't call it sci-fi, but, well, it's debatable. Look,
In this one, yeah.
we're talking about the movie Cries and Whispers from 1972, directed by the infamous Swedish auteur, the very influential Ingmar Bergman.
I want to watch more Ingmar Bergman.
Well, so far, I know you and I, he's made a lot of movie.
Yeah.
A
lot of movie.
And the ones that we have seen in the last few years, just you and I, are The Seventh Seal, which is probably his most famous one, and Through a Glass Darkly. You remember that movie? About the girl, they're on the beach, she's slowly losing her mind, and her brother's there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I liked that one. I don't remember The Seventh Seal.
Seventh Seal, the Crusader Knight is playing chess against death.
Yes. Okay, yes. Yeah, okay, well then I'm an Ingmar Bergman fan.
Well, just based on those 2.
On those 3.
And this one.
And this one.
Yeah, this one is written by Ingmar Bergman, starring Harriet Andersson, Kari Sylvan, Ingrid Tholen, Liv Ullmann, Inga Gill. I think with the Ingmar Bergman movies, and this movie in particular, probably the most open to specific interpretations. There's a lot that is, there's a lot of space left for different perspectives, especially those on life, death, gender, religion, sexuality. Oh, well, I see where you're going there. Is it an issue of sexuality or just Scandinavian people being Scandinavian people? We'll see. We'll parse through it.
There's a couple different things that I question in this movie regarding sexuality.
But yes, Cries and Whispers. It's a turn of the century. I think it's like late 19th century. So what's going on in this movie? Someone is dying, right? So
Yes.
We're off to a hilarious start.
Yeah, so there's 3 sisters, and then there is a servant in this house. This house is all red, and these women wear all white. Anna is the servant girl.
Yeah.
And throughout the movie, I just want to talk about the house for a second. Throughout the movie, you find you go
mansion.
through a story of each of these women.
Castle, maybe.
I think it's a mansion. This is where these 3 girls grew up. Seemingly the sister who is dying,
Agnes,
has been living there her whole life. That's how it seems. And at some point, Anna came in to care for her and the household. She seems to have also been sick forever.
she has cancer.
All the memories.
It doesn't distinctly say it, but
I wondered. It seemed like a lung or stomach situation.
Maybe like a uterine kind of thing too, I think.
I did consider that. I wasn't sure. I figured it was either a cancer or a lung disease or something because she does have issues breathing.
That part where she's just gasping like that. Unsettling. What little we know from what we've seen of the Ingmar Bergman movies, the aspects of horror seem very subtle. Like it's there, but it's very like small, but kind of
there in this.
Still affecting in a way you wouldn't expect because it's not like traditionally fearful, which is the Seventh Seal is kind of like that too. But like you get the vibe that there's a horror element to it.
Definitely in this movie. And I feel like the best way to go about this is to talk about each of the women. But as far as the house goes, they grew up in this house. And throughout this, they go through each of these women's memories. But every single scene is in this house or in the yard. There's no other place. And the house is draped in red. It's very stark. Even the bedroom that Agnes is dying in is very red until she's dead, and then it's white. It's interesting.
You think you got Dario Argento to do the interior designs here.
I was going to exactly say to you that this movie gave me the same feeling as a Dario Argento film. This movie is very like Suspiria feel to me because it is this sort of like there's these women and there's this relationship that you don't quite understand, and there's like a heaviness on all of them that you don't fully have explained, and they all are dealing with it in their own distinct way.
It just seems like when we do come across 70s European movies, they're very bold colored.
Yes.
That might be a coincidence, but maybe they were just all into that at the time.
Well, I think it's actually very heavy-handed because I do believe that the imagery here is supposed to be a womb. Like this house is the womb. Their mother has passed before, but they do talk about her as well. And every time you see her, she's wearing white and she's seeming very sad most of the time.
Agnes is kind of the left out one in the childhood, the one that we later see die. We get these brief narrations sometimes of the characters discussing their past and their perspective. So we get Agnes talking about how the mother doted on the other children and how she felt just kind of left out. The other portions of narration, which are a male voice that seem to just kind of appear, are from Ingmar Bergman himself.
Oh, wow.
Like he did those himself.
That's interesting.
It's interesting. I'm not sure why I mean, we get that the narration is from the characters at that point, but why is it Ingmar clipping those transitions together with his narration?
Well, I think when it's in Agnes's voice, it's her journal entries. Because early on we see her, like, the opening scene of this movie is very intense and very long, and it's Agnes trying to sort of wake up. There's no words spoken for a little while in this movie. You're just sort of up close looking at the face of this woman who is so exhausted from being in so much pain for so very long. Her sickness has caused her to be completely just who she is in that moment because she's just trying to deal with what's happening. And then her sisters are both they have big deal walls up, like big time not being themselves, either one of them. The youngest daughter, the redhead, seems to have a good relationship with the mother, but you do get the idea that it's all very surface, that she probably didn't know her mother well either. It was just, she was the little one, and so the mother was maybe more jokey with her, but it wasn't like she really got to know the mom. I think Agnes felt left out, but I think they probably all did in their own way.
I guess Agnes is the oldest sister, right? I would assume, because she's the matriarch of this house. Despite being emotionally isolated as a youth, near the end they're talking about her estate and dividing it up. So she is the head of this household.
Well, it's interesting because they don't expressly explain that. And I did wonder about that because, you know, the other two sisters have gotten married. Agnes never did. Agnes has stayed at the house. And so was the house left to Agnes because she was the one there, or was she the oldest? Because the other two sisters, tell me their names. So there's Agnes and Anna, and then the sisters are...
Karen is the frigid one, and you got Maria. I believe it's Maria who's the
Marie,
opposite of the frigid.
Yeah, she's the more like kind of flippant, at times passionate one. Karen seems the oldest.
She loves to throw it around there. She's been having an affair with the doctor that comes and sees Agnes, and it's implied there. But the doctor, he may feel the passion sometimes, but he doesn't. We don't see him being so emotionally in it. And she is married.
Yeah, and overall, you can tell that he feels passion for her, but he doesn't want to go back there.
It ain't love.
They had a relationship before she got married, and then in one of her memories, we do see when they reconnected. And it's interesting because he's actually sort of mean to her. You know, she's very much coming on to him in this memory because we see her in the present try to get him to be with her. Nowadays,
we call them pick-me girls. We call them pick-me girls nowadays.
I've never heard that.
The kids. I know what the kids are saying, but yeah, Maria.
A little too thirsty.
Yeah, Maria's a pick me girl.
Yeah, she is, and
she doesn't get along with other women. She says things like, "Women don't like me," stuff like that.
She is that girl.
I'm not like other girls.
Yeah.
I'm more friends with the guys.
The one time we know for sure that she slept with the doctor when she was married, they were at the house. She was visiting, and obviously, he was there to see Agnes because he was actually there to see Anna's little girl. Anna's little girl was very sick. And Marie's whole family was there, and her husband had gone away, so she had made up the guest room for the doctor, and she comes in her, like, bright red lacy negligee, and they fuck. But then the next day, her husband comes home and attempts suicide.
Yeah, he stabs himself, look like in the gut, maybe.
I knew something like that was about to happen, but I was waiting for like a pistol sound. Someone stabbing themselves has to be one of the most difficult ways.
Yeah.
And it almost makes you think, did he really want to die? Or was it just trying to get her attention? Because she comes in the room and he's looking at her and he's saying, like, help me. And she just is like, no. And she closes the door on him.
Well, we get to the end it doesn't matter what point, but we're at the end of the movie and they're dividing the estate post Agnes's death, and he's alive. And
yeah.
so he survived.
He survived. he survived, and I think that's the other reason why the doctor in the current time won't fuck around with her, because he's basically like, no.
Yeah. Everyone's the block's too hot. Everyone knows, and I'm not in love with you anyway. So whatever, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of feel sorry for Maria in that sense, constantly wanting some kind of passionate validation from anyone who will give it to her, including even her own sisters, in which we have Karen. This whole movie is her openly saying how she absolutely hates everyone in her life and her whole family.
I think that she is so fucked in the head. I think that I don't know what she would have wanted to do with her life, but she hates her life. There's a point where she's having dinner with her husband in one of her memories, again at the house they had come to visit. Anna's there. And what I understood from the way that she acted towards Anna, the way that she kept repeating everything's lies, it's all lies. I just feel like she's so incredibly unhappy, but she feels so incredibly trapped.
Very resentful.
And her husband is an asshole. I mean, he just seems like an asshole. And he's very, bossy. You can tell she has such contempt for him that when they were eating dinner, there was part of me that thought, like, he takes more fish and she doesn't. And for a second, I was like, is she poisoning him? Like, I wouldn't have put it past her to be like, I need to get out of this, so I'm going to kill my husband. Like, she seems like the kind who would, but instead, she spills her cup and it breaks, and she has this little piece of glass, and her husband goes away to get ready for bed.
She knows that it's going to be love time when he comes to bed.
And she doesn't want that. And this is one of the most interesting scenes I think I've ever watched, and I don't completely know how I feel about it, because
I feel great about it.
Well, okay. She has Maria, Anna helps Karen undress, and she's still holding this like piece of glass, and she has her nightgown on, and she tells Anna to leave, and she ends up, what she seems to do is she sticks the piece of broken glass inside of her vagina. She
stabs herself in the
she inserts it into her vagina.
Yeah.
And there's part of her that seems, at once, she's like sweaty and in pain, but she's also seems sort of euphoric. And she goes into the bedroom and she sits very gingerly on the bed, and the husband comes over like you said, it's going to be like sex time. And she reaches down and she's covered in blood, and she like wipes the blood
it on her face.
And I have a feeling that they never had sex again. I think that I don't know what she wanted him to think. That's why it's so interesting to me.
I had an Aunt Mary like this. I don't think she ever stabbed herself in her kuka, but she was a miserable woman who allegedly rarely, if ever, had sex with her husband. Mm-hmm. And her husband was maybe allegedly gay. Rest in peace, Aunt Mary. You were full of hate.
I never met Aunt Mary, but I've heard so many stories about her that I kind of wish I had met her, just to put like a face to the stories, because she seems,
she probably would have insulted you right to your face.
Totally. I'm sure she would have. Seemingly since that time, at least, maybe even before then, but I think she was doing that to keep her husband away from her indefinitely, because later she has this moment with Marie where Marie wants to touch her, like comfort her physically, and Karen is like, I hate it when people touch me, do not touch me. And that whole scene, they eventually do, like Marie kind of forces her to embrace.
Well, Corinne also tells her that she hates her, like that she hates all of you.
But then she apologizes.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like, it very much to me feels like, I'm going to hurt you before you can hurt me. I feel like that's why I think Karen is broken. I don't think that she has any kind of I don't think she's narcissistic. I think she hates herself. Right. I think she hates herself.
Yeah.
And so because she hates herself, she projects that out on everyone else.
But she's just as cruel to the servant as the husband is.
Well, but when she hits Anna, then immediately she is regretful. Like, she's lashing out because of how much pain mentally she is in.
Mm-hmm.
And even Anna, when she hits her, she then is like, I'm so sorry, help me get undressed. And she's nice to her after, but Yeah, it's interesting. We'll come back to Marie, or we'll come back to Karen, but like Marie's thing, we kind of have already talked about her memories, but she has a child. She's the only one that I believe they ever talk about having a child.
I'm trying to remember it. We watched this like 3 days ago.
The child is in the scene when her husband comes home the day after she's fucked the doctor.
Oh, okay.
Because there is a point at the end where after Agnes has passed, Marie, you know, when she's trying to comfort Karen, she basically says to her, like, I want to know you. I don't know why we can't be friends. I don't have any friends, and you're my sister, and couldn't we stay up all night talking and all of this? And there's this very, when Karen finally drops that veil, we don't hear anything they say to each other, but it's that whisper part. It's the very, like, it's fast coming, and they're very much like close to each other's faces, and it's very intimate.
Yeah.
Like almost a little creepily intimate, but I think that might go into culture stuff like you were talking about. Like they're kissing each other on the lips, but it's not like long passionate kisses, but it is like definitely mouth kisses. Like I did not kiss my brother on the lips. And some friends do that, but I don't know. It seemed a little almost too intimate.
Yeah.
It seemed a little sexual, and it was confusing, but also it's one of those things where, like, if Karen truly hasn't been touched in, like, years at this point from anyone, it's probably electrifying when she lets herself, regardless of who it is or what kind of touch it is. So there's also that. Like, it's very intense.
Yeah, maybe she's so overwhelmed by the feeling. Yeah.
And, you know, Marie is kind of going with that. But then there's this point at the end where Marie all of a sudden is her like flippant, like back to her childish, nothing matters attitude. And Karen's like, don't you remember that night? Like, don't you remember, like, you touched me, like we got to know each other, like we talked. And she's like, yeah, okay, whatever. But like my husband needs me and my kid needs me.
Yeah.
So I have to go.
They're counting the money
really
at that point.
Weird. Yeah, it's really weird. She was alone and she needed companionship, so that's why she drew it out of Karen. But once she didn't, she was done with her. And it's very, very sad.
So Agnes, of course, as we said, is dying of cancer through 3/4 of this movie. And Anna is played by Carrie Silwan. Anna kind of looks like a Schrute. Like she'd be in the Dwight Schrute family. I couldn't help it but see that. But you saw it too, right?
I didn't really until you said it. I mean, I definitely thought that she was very like kind of
I guess Rainn Wilson is ancestries from that part of the world. It seems kind of obvious.
I feel like she is someone who you would say comes from like strong stock. Like, so I get what you mean. You know, like
thick bones.
She's strong and she's serious and she's
devoted to Agnes.
So devoted to Agnes. We find out that back when the doctor came to visit her daughter actually passed away. We don't know anything about who the father of the child was, but she and her daughter had lived in this house seemingly for her whole daughter's life. She'd been there for decades at this point, or at least a decade, taking care of Agnes exclusively. And they have this very intimate relationship. The women are taking turns watching Agnes while she sleeps because she's so sick. And when Anna takes up her turn, she's going to sew or something, but Agnes calls for her and is like, you're too far away. Come closer to me.
And when she walks over to the bed, lets out the mommy milkers and then lays by her and
cradles her
and has Agnes like rest her head on her bosom. And so, yeah, you could think like, do they have some kind of like very intimate relationship here? And maybe they do.
I think they do.
But also you could just be like, they're Scandinavian. They're just kind of doing their thing.
The clue to it, I think.
When you're Scandinavian, flopping out your mommy milkers is nothing.
No, for sure. Just because she was like lay against my chest, that doesn't mean that they were intimate. But I think that they were.
I'm not saying I didn't chub.
The reason I think that it was a very sweet scene. I mean, and they're, you know, they are kissing, and Anna, you can tell really, I feel like you can tell that they love each other. And I think the key to knowing that they did have a relationship is that one of the sisters is reading from the journal, and it seems to be about Anna and talking about how Agnes, for the first time in her life, has felt togetherness and love.
Yeah.
And I think she's talking about Anna. And Anna's obviously thinks that she's talking about her because Anna's one of the ones who, well, they all have these, it's all very small expressions, right? Like no one is really telling you what they think. Like the cries are exclusively from Agnes. Like no one else is really, you know, expressing intense emotions. But, and then at the end, Anna, they tell her she can have one thing from the house. And she says she doesn't want anything, but she takes the journal.
Yeah.
And I think that that's why, like the journal, I think tells the story of them.
So Agnes does pass away and they kind of put her in like some bonnet, like some deceased clothing or something, almost like
a wake,
almost like a baby, like how you would dress a baby.
Did it seem odd to you that it was as though Karen and Anna, when they were like placing her and like her feet and her hands and the blanket when she very first died, didn't it seem like they had done it a million times? I was like, how do you know they were moving in unison, preparing her body? It just seemed odd to me.
Maybe they had been rehearsing this in their mind.
That's
over
how
and over
it
and
felt.
over again.
Like they were so prepared for her to pass away that they just went into auto mode to like prepare her body. But then you're talking about some nuns come.
Yeah. Yeah, we get some religious ceremony. It seems very focused on it. Mm-hmm. But there's a point in which, you know, after she dies, Anna walks into the room where Agnes is, and she sees that the body has been crying. And we don't see her mouth move, but we hear Agnes. Or do we hear Agnes, or do we just hear Anna claiming that Agnes wants to talk to her sister?
We hear Agnes's voice, and we also see her hand.
I think this is mostly interpreted like a dream sequence.
Yes.
So the post-mortem Agnes is requesting the sister's presence, and Anna is helping to facilitate that. And Karen comes in and she has her moment, but it freaks them out, and Marie can't handle it. They come in and they confront her. And I think the most common interpretation of that, this is a dream. They're conscious. They're facing the loss of their sister through their conscious. But I just kind of have more fun in my head. Assume the scene is literally like she came back from the dead.
Yeah.
Like she is momentarily a zombie. I mean,
no, I know.
It's probably not like that, but like it just feels, it kind of sends a bit more of a chill up your spine to kind of just think about it like that.
Well, and she says to Agnes says to Anna, I'm having trouble leaving you all. I'm in so much pain, but I can't leave you. That's why I feel like there is a otherworldliness to this movie, because they do also say the priest who comes says that Agnes is more religious than he ever was, which is so interesting to me. And then you think about this, like her kind of like coming back for a moment. And when Karen and Marie are so scared off, Anna's like, fine, just go. I will take care of her. And then the next thing you see is Anna again has her top off and she is cradling Agnes. And it feels very much like that mother, baby Jesus.
Yes.
It's a Madonna scene.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's beautiful, but it's like heartbreaking. And also, like you said, there's a little bit of horror.
Then cuts to them post a funeral. They did lay her to rest. And the family is, and you were talking about how the interchange between Anna and how she doesn't want anything. And everyone's coming off a little cold. Karen seems a little softer than before, like you were saying. But Marie they're counting the money, so she's getting more of what she wants. if she's getting what she wants, then fuck anything else.
Right.
But then we get these images, this flashbacks of, I think it's also coming from Anna's journal or Agnes's journal.
Yeah, Anna, when they all leave, picks up Agnes's journal.
And you're seeing all four women just kind of walking through the day, and Agnes talking about, she loved to be with her sisters and loved to be with all of these women. And you see an image of all the sisters dressed in white, just strolling through the day, and Anna is there, and everyone does genuinely look happy, even if you know by now that under the surface, at least a couple of them are not. But it does seem like that Agnes was very grateful, at least by the end of her life, for the family. Mm-hmm. Despite her resentments at her youth, she did cherish that. The movie focuses on how they're all fucked up, and really the best of them died, right? Yeah. The one that was most grateful despite their troubles was the one that died an agonizing death.
Yes, and I think she was the only thing holding them together. Mm-hmm. Because they're already talking about they're going to sell the house. They've let Anna go. They're basically like, you can stay here for a couple months while you find something else. And Marie does get her husband to give Anna a little extra money. Karen doesn't want to do that, or Karen's husband doesn't want to give her any money. They give her a little extra money, and so, but none of it is like, they don't think of Anna as part of the family. She is a servant, and I think Agnes thought of her as part of the family. And then the scene between Karen and Marie at the end, you just get the idea that when they all leave the house this time, they're never going to see each other again. And they do talk about, we'll see each other on 12th night. I don't think that's going to happen. Like, they talked about, like, I don't know what 12th night, however often that is, but they would have like these parties when they were young on 12th night. And Marie's like, oh, we'll see each other. But I don't think they will. I think that was very like an empty promise. Marie's very vapid towards the end. That's pretty much it. But I feel like this movie, like when we were watching it, I was just thinking about, it's so not the same, but it does give me tones of Three Women, because it's like they're not empty. These women are almost like too full. Like they're so broken. They're like broken women in a broken house. And they talk about how their mother was depressed all the time too. Like she had this longing that she could never suffice.
Everyone is a little changed, almost have swapped their demeanors. Karen becomes a little more open towards Marie, but Marie is exhibiting the coldness that we saw Karen exhibit earlier. So yeah, I can see where you get that. Interesting movie for sure. Mm-hmm. You're going to give this 1 through 5. I'm going to give this 1 through 5 combined for best out of 10. What are you scoring for Ingmar Bergman's very interesting Cries and Whispers, which is on as of this recording, is on the Max app. There is actually a lot of Ingmar Bergman on Max right now if you want to go see and watch any of that. I believe Seventh Seal and Last I Checked, Through a Glass Darkly is on there, plus a little more.
I'm going to give it a 4.5.
I think it's a solid 4. We've been hitting the 8.5s here in our sessions pretty well. That one's getting filled out. Cries and Whispers by Ingmar Bergman from 1972 shares the ranking with Akira, the Tim Burton Batman. Very similar. Devil in a Blue Dress, What's Eating Gilbert Grape, Wild at Heart, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. It's at least as good as those films. Check the show notes for links and other places to find us. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. What do you think about Cries and Whispers? What's your favorite Ingmar Bergman movie? We'd love to hear some recommendations. Maybe we'll throw it on the pile for down the road. We're pretty scheduled out, but sometimes we do watch movies and don't talk about them here. That
is true.
It does happen sometimes. So, but just let us know. We're pretty damn booked up right now. I've definitely overbooked our movie calendar. But we love to watch movies, so it ain't no thing. But for Women in Crisis, our special sign off.
Watch your back, girl.
From your undead sister.